Welcome again to the Solid Signal podcast for the week of July 23rd, 2018. It's an interesting subject this week and one that we have to kind of address carefully because there are certain confidential and business aspects to this that I don't want to trip all over. But let's get right into it. The question is DIRECTV done with hardware development? You know, it's easy to kind of think that because you don't see this massive outpouring of new parts from them, but you also have to look at the history. First of all, DIRECTV as a company and now as a division of AT&T has never been in the habit of releasing tons and tons of new hardware every year. When they have more than one or two hardware rollouts in a year, it's a kind of a rare thing. And now we're dealing with a company that has been rolling out hardware for close to 25 years, and there's a new focus. You need to remember that the AT&T deal, although it seems like very old news to all of us, is still kind of a rolling target. When you have two companies as big as AT&T was and DIRECTV was before the two of them merged, it takes years and years to find all the synergies that you're going to need. And I think that when you looked at the first year and a half of AT&T as an owner of DIRECTV, they were focusing a lot on human resources. They were talking about simplifying and streamlining staff. And I know they did a lot of that. Some of it was really good. And on the other hand, I was sad to see some of my friends decide to take new opportunities. But when you talk about having two complete sales organizations and two complete engineering departments and two complete rollouts of different kinds of home equipment, you're going to have to simplify. That's how companies get more profitable. And so there was, this sort of shakeout of people. And that took a while. And the next phase of it, which we've really only been in for, it seems like about a year, is a shakeout of equipment. What we're seeing first, we saw that a lot of UVerse stuff has kind of been marginalized. There's been no new development of UVerse, and although one of our listeners tends to remind me on a very frequent basis that UVerse is still taking in new customers, they're not really building new hardware. They're not going after new markets. And they are, if you want to put it this way, kind of a legacy option until something new comes along. What is that? Well, if I told you, well, you know what they say. But looking on the DIRECTV side of the house, there was still this massive amount of hardware to support. DIRECTV stopped supporting all its equipment made before 2003, not that long ago. I want to say it was about 4 years ago. And that made things simpler because, you had at that point, about 30, 40 receivers that had to be checked for compatibility every time they made any sort of change. And now that doesn't really need to happen. But you still have all of this hardware since 2003 that's technically still supported. And as long as the satellite at the 119 location continues on and doesn't go into its parking orbit, pretty much anything built since 2003 is going to be supported. Moving on from there, it's really still everything since 2006, since the original H20 receiver and HR20 DVR came out. That's still a lot of equipment to support. And you're talking about folks at AT&T looking to simplify, looking to streamline. And you don't really need to be supporting 12, 13-year-old equipment at this point when you can be aggressively pushing people into the latest and greatest stuff. That's been what the transition from the older stuff into Genie has been about for the last 5 years, has been getting people to give up that older equipment and move toward a newer, unified, more efficient structure. That's still going on. And so you're seeing a lot of focus on looking back at what was there and simplifying it. I'm really impressed with the HS17 Genie 2 because of all the things it replaces. It replaces a broadband DECA, power inserter, satellite receiver, wireless video bridge, and DVR all in one box. And that makes installations easier. Pair that with the reverse band 3 dish, and you find that really installations get a lot easier, especially if you go to all wireless clients. That kind of simplification is what you need before you start talking about new hardware. And also, remember the HS17 Genie 2 isn't really that old. There are markets that have just started getting it just 3 or 4 months ago. We've been talking about it for well over a year. It seems like about 18 months. And so it seems like old news to us. But that's always true when you're talking about DIRECTV. We're on the leading edge of technology, and we tend to forget that regular folks are still rolling into stuff that we consider old news, and they think it's brand new. You know, looking toward the future, I think that it is incredibly strong for DIRECTV. The HS17 Genie 2 is a great solution for anyone who needs up to 7 rooms of coverage, and there are other options if you need more rooms than that. It's got a great amount of recording capacity, number of tuners. It's going to handle pretty much everything that you want, especially when you pair it with on-demand programming, because folks, this isn't 2005 anymore. You're not standalone. You don't need to record everything that you need. You can find a lot of it on demand. You can find a lot of it on streaming. And your DIRECTV DVR is just one part of your entertainment ecosystem. It's not like it was 15 years ago where you needed to be completely self-sufficient. I do want to say, without going into much detail, and I don't want to really tease you, I hate to do that, that there is some really great stuff coming on the horizon for AT&T hardware. I think that we all can guess that there's going to be some great 5G options out there, and that they're going to leverage their wireless and fiber infrastructures to create an even better experience for DIRECTV satellite customers and all sorts of entertainment customers. But that stuff is still on the horizon. It's going to be a little while before that happens. In the meantime, keep confident, because things are still being streamlined over at AT&T. Things are still getting better. And I know there's that tendency to kind of naysay, but it really isn't needed. It just, AT&T is a great company, a strong company, and it's going to be here for a long time to come.